Now, hearing a story that takes place in the 1990s, 80s, or even earlier will tell you behind every hustler is a mentor. In my opinion, I think everyone should be mentored by someone that's well seasoned. Hell, even Michael Jordan kept older men around him to keep him on his ship, that kept him sharp on his toes. With that being said, if you look at what's going on with the younger generation, the future is cooked. But tonight, we're going to talk about Boy George. You know, the one that was allegedly bringing in $250,000 a week on a bad day. As a youngin', Boy George looked up to a guy named Joey Nevado, aka Joey White, for the fact that he appeared to have the lifestyle almost every man wants. He would see how Joey White carried himself, riding around in all types of machines, the Benz, the BMWs. On the weekends, he'll be pushing around a Porsche. He had one of his favorite girlfriends riding around in a silver caddy. He was having it his way. Joey White ran a coke spot near the home of Boy George's grandma. George would harass Joey for work, and Joey would joke around and tell him that he's not ready. But when he finally gave him some work, he hired him as a lookout at one of his spots on 156th Street, eventually being promoted to pitcher on 166. He took him under his wing. Joey would be the one that gave him the nickname Boy George. He watched and studied Joey White's operation and how he handled things. He saw how early Joey White would be up in the morning to make sure his spots were up and running. George took notes and started his day just as early. No smoking, drinking, or hanging out. He was just locked in. It got to a point where Joey White and Boy George would have breakfast together. He would give him game and coach him on certain plays and school him with jaws. He saw how Joey White kept his workers on their toes. Eventually, Boy George would be presented with a better opportunity, and he started working for the Torres brothers, which was cool. It was okay. You know, Joey White still was in the picture. He was in the mix. It was all love. He went from selling coke to selling dope in a heartbeat. He said it was less time, faster money. The faster the money come, the faster the cars come, the faster the women. He took his talents to Watson Street as a teen selling a brand of H labeled Checkmate. Joey White knew all his moves as he began to get closer and closer. Joey would pin him on to fine dining and his personal jeweler. They would take trips together. They would visit the gun range so George made sure his gun game was intact. Boy George was running 166 in Washington, and it got to the point that Strip was pulling in great numbers, at least 65,000 a week. With numbers like that, of course, it comes with problems. Other dealers tried to get a piece, and Joey White would tell Boy George that he had to handle that. Protect what's yours at any cost. George wanted to impress Joey White and show him that he was built for this. A turf war broke out. During the war, an innocent bystander was dropped, and that's when the Boy George reputation began. Joey White told him that's the only way you'll be taken serious in the game. When bodies start dropping, that's when things get serious. After the war, it was back to regular programming. Boy George was able to grind into his first Benz purchase. He wouldn't waste any time pulling up in front of his old group home to show it off to his friends and staff. He loved the attention. It was a rush, a feeling that gives you a high that you don't ever want to come down from. He knew that if he kept grinding, it would just get better and better. In '87, the DEA bought down his suppliers, which was the Torres brothers. Boy George had to move silent. He took the profit money and set up his own situation. He brought a bunch of supplies, a triple beam scale envelopes. He bought in a couple of people, and the next day, he pumped life back into 166 in Washington. With introducing this new brand of dope stamped Obsession, 87% pure. By 1988, he owned 15 selling locations and was the youngest major smack dealer in the South Bronx. See, Boy George's start was to be just like Joey White, but ended up doing it way bigger. With success comes fake smiles and envy. Joey White acted as if he was proud, but you could see it in his face. You could see it in his eyes that he wasn't. Shit. You would think at least his mentor would be happy for him, but you know what they say. People want to see you do good, but not better than them. The only person that genuinely wants you to do better than them is your father, and that's facts. Boy George started to push Ferraris, Lamborghinis, Bentleys. George leased a stable of Jettas, Maximas, and other cars for daily use. $50,000 worth of special features added to his Benz 190 on some James Bond shit with radar detectors. The license plate slid into a side compartment and the strobe light blinded anyone following him. Secret compartments in the door panels and the floor hid weapons and cash. One device gushed gobs of oil from the tail, while a hidden switch flipped the box in the trunk that sprayed. Like I said earlier, he became bigger than Joey White. Already at 7 figures at the age of 17 years old, he was buying the dope wholesale from his Flying Dragon Connect, and the agents rarely dealt with people directly, but they like how George conducted himself, thanks to Joey White. George and the agents scheduled their meetings and exchanges in parking lots at Kennedy Airport, on various corners in Midtown Manhattan and commercial districts all over Queens, making the $140,000 profit with the flip. So much money, he stored it in empty apartments and in the trunk of parked cars. August 27, 1987, Joey White introduced Boy George to a good friend of his named Joseph Mendez, who bought 2 ounces of 88% pure dope from Rivera for $12,000. They met on multiple occasions. During the meetings, Boy George would allegedly talk about his organization distributing 2 kilograms of heroin a week, which I doubt. But unfortunately, Joey White served as a confidential informant. He's been working with the boys for years, filing reports with the DEA and task force, and that good friend he introduced him to ended up being an undercover. Now, you ever heard of the saying, never meet your hero? Well, there's a reason why it's said, and I strongly agree, because one bad experience can destroy the whole perspective. It's like finding out Santa Claus ain't real. See, Boy George fell for the illusion. He was so blinded by it that it caused him to let his guard down. Illusion will cause you to honor someone that lacks morals or will prompt you to rank them above yourself. But in reality, their lack of character couldn't obtain the same success without corruption. So you better watch who you look up to. The same man that brought him into the game took him out. He delivered him to the Alphabet Boys on a silver platter. Like, when do we ever hear about a man giving up his protege? According to records, they had info on Boy George since 1987. Now, while Boy George sat behind bars, Joey White will be paid a visit, resulting in him getting beat with baseball bats and set on fire. But, I appreciate y'all, man. I will be dropping more stories, so don't forget to tune in. And don't forget to tune into my last video. Get the likes up. If you like war stories, I'll be bringing them every week for y'all, man. Don't forget to hit the Patreon. Hit me up in the comments. Don't be a stranger. Turn your notifications on so you don't miss out. I'm out.